evening. You're listening live to the Xtreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you, of course, from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, on a balmy 60-degree night here in Central Florida. I have with me, of course, from the great Midwest, RDV. RDV, it's good to see you again.
Oh, it's good to see you. And you guys might notice that the duck's gone because we're actually going through the Geeky Puppet Show StreamYard, kind of doing this and just testing it out a little bit. Because I figure if you're paying, your friend's got something, why not share?
Because sharing is caring, and it's all about manipulation. And of course, that brings us right into tonight's
Brand new Christmas.
Movie. That's right. It's Scrooged with Bill Murray from 1988, 89. And I got to tell you guys, one thing I wanted to say here, RDV, just kind of before we dive into the movie, is when we talk about Christmas movies, of course, everyone says, "Oh, Die Hard's a Christmas movie." That's always a cute one to argue about, and it's really stupid because it's like horror comedy. If it's funny, it's not horrific. That's my mainstay there. But with Christmas, I go, if it's really not about Christ or the Holy Spirit or something religious, it's really not a Christmas movie. And I understand those. Yeah, and you know, otherwise you can say a lot of things are Christmas movies.
Technicalities, I get you, because you know there are things that I watch. Obviously, I watch Die Hard. I watch Ghostbusters 2 every year.
Sure.
You know, Gremlins, another one. It's like we all have our own traditions, but if you really want to be technical about it, it's not a Christmas movie unless it takes place on Christmas Day and the main focus is around Christmas.
Yeah, I think with Scrooged, what was interesting about this is I haven't seen this since it's been released for over 30 years now, and it started coming back to me really quick how much of an ass Bill Murray can be and do it really good, not just kind of fun. Because this movie is a little mean-spirited, and I don't mind by that. One of the issues I have with movies like this and that Jimmy Stewart piece of shit Christmas movie is I'm not bashing on Jimmy Stewart. I know it always sounds like
The Wonderful Life. Yeah.
Right. It's pure manipulation, and I'm not saying somebody's right or wrong if they're a grumpy ass or whatever, but I've always defended Scrooge because he's the one that without him nobody would have a friggin' job. He's the one that gave Cratchit, the ability to do stuff, and it's his own damn fault he had like 14 kids and couldn't buy rice for soup for Timmy or whatever the hell his name is.
But it's kind of like a more realistic story. The guy was lonely. That's what it was. It's basically Charles Dickens, Ebenezer Scrooge. Christmas Carol. Ebenezer was all about money, self. He didn't care about anybody else, and he lived a very lonely life. Visited and it's basically it's like almost like a proverbial intervention, saying, "Hey, if you keep running on this, you're just gonna be miserable." Now there are people who are perfectly happy being single, and not having kids, just being rich or whatever. Sure. But the whole thing is that this is supposed to be a Christmas movie, and it's just meant I want to say this is meant for kids. Charles Dickens was probably meant for kids more to scare you into basically don't be an asshole.
Well, one of the things we've talked about with movies that have like a moral message too is that old fairy tales were meant to scare kids into submission, to have certain standards in whatever culture they grew up in, to believe that the patriarchy, matriarchy, whatever the hell you want to call it, the family unit. And I think with Scrooge is if you really want to look at it, it's making a deep analysis, a case against capitalism, consumerism, because basically ours in the United States version is a lot different than what that you had in England, which at the time was really country number one. Was we had before the gold standard, of course, that was implemented over here. You had the silver standard over there, and the Industrial Revolution and high standards of living, but everyone likes to portray it as a exploitation of this, that, or whatever. And it's like, well, if you didn't have this exploitation that you knew you're a part of, even if you felt like it wasn't fair, your life would be worse off. And so when you get a lot of this manipulation in here with ghosts and spirituality too, it hits you in the face that it's like there's other ways that you could probably go about doing it. But that being said, with this movie, I think it's a great I hate to say reimaging, but it's a modern interpretation of what Scrooge is trying to do. And I think, like we've got going on here in chat with the comments, I think Bill Murray nailed it because he hadn't been around since Ghostbusters. So for him to come back and be a bit of a dick, it took a lot of people by surprise.
Because he did Ghostbusters in '89, which is a year later. This was '88, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
So like I said, he did nail it. And as far as the capitalism thing, it's more just he could have been working any job, but it makes more sense for Ebenezer Scrooge, like he says, that took place in England. that he was, a guy who just basically was in charge of somebody else. He was a boss. He had his own business. He was all about money in this, and it makes sense. There's so many movies other than Scrooge for American movies. As far as we had Trading Places, anything like that. As far as capitalism is always going to be, there's always going to be people who take advantage of it and make are greedy. And the whole point is it's not really attack on capitalism. It's more attack on people who are greedy. In a sense, we're selfish assholes, and it's kind of what his character was. Not it has nothing to do with the fact that he was rich, but like I can understand what you're saying, and because Christmas, remember, it's all about communism. Sure,
it was only a year earlier. Michael Douglas really had the line of the '80s, and when he said greed is good because it's a selfish nature and you can rely on people's self-interest. And that's, I mean, look, we're getting really technical before really diving into the movie here, but I think it's lost on a lot of people what all that means, because for most people, if they celebrate Christmas or just in general, they might be the 2-year Catholics or whatever the religious thing is, and they just have a tree, listen to some Christmas music and, do presents and that's it. And more power to you, whether you celebrate it or not or what.
I gotta say that I like this more than the Christmas Carol. That's our story, because he at least gets a happy ending. Scrooge basically pissed off his fiance. She left him for another person. He left him, and he got old and miserable. And here, Karen Allen is basically his ex-girlfriend or fiance, or whatever. She came around, and that's kind of when he started getting visited by the ghosts. And the ghosts here are funny. David Johansen, Buster Poindexter, was awesome in this. I love him. You get Lou, who is played, what's his name?
Bobcat Goldthwait. Oh, okay, him.
William Forsythe is Lou, the guy from his former boss.
Yeah.
He chose, he's supposed to be Jacob Marley. And then you have Bobcat Goldthwait is actually,
he's the guy that gets fired, Eliot.
He's Bob Hatchett.
Yeah.
Isn't he? Yeah. I'm trying to think of who the fairy is. What's her name? Oh, she was in Taxi. She was what's his name's girlfriend in the Taxi. I forget her name is offhand. Carol Dane.
Actress,
yeah. She's supposed to be the ghost of Christmas present, I think, or present or past. I'm not sure. I think she's a past, but anyway,
she's present.
The whole
she's the fairy in there when they
yes, he's breaking his nose, beating him up. This is a very fun movie, enjoyable. Richard Donner film. I always forget it's a Richard Donner film. It feels more like a John Hughes film, in a sense.
And some of the stuff that I think is lost on the audience, if you forget about themes here, is I just want to talk about the opening moment for a second. Okay, because he's the head of this TV department, right? And so they come in there and they have their Christmas lineup. And I'm like, I marked out hard, like, holy shit, I would pay for the lineup they had. They had The Night All the Reindeer Died. It was like an assault, slasher movie or something.
Right.
And then you had Robert Goulet's Cajun Christmas. And then you had, oh God, what was it? The something with the Solid Gold Dancers, right? With Mary Lou Retton, who's everybody's darling in '84 in America when we kicked everybody's ass in the Olympics. USA.
Yep.
And I thought, this is tremendous. I'm like, and then that's kind of what stayed with him as he was visiting the sets and all that. I'm like, that's fucking genius. I'm like, if you watch that movie now, you'd be like, yeah, okay, this old guy in Ghostbusters, he's an original. Let me watch him. Is he funny? None of this stuff would make sense about how big the Solid Gold show was, with Soul Train in the 70s, 80s. I know Ed knows that, and everybody else that's older in chat. Yep. And so they really kind of nailed some of these things there that made it funny. And then you contrast that with how Bill Murray was acting. He was a dick. He really was. He fires Eliot right off the bat, and then I popped super hard because our boy Robert Mitchum showed up in that. He kicks the cat later, and I'm like, no, Robert Mitchum, I love you.
I always forget Robert Mitchum's in this. I'm like William Forsythe plays Lou, but Robert Mitchum, I'm like, well, what's right? He's in here too. It's just the first thing you see is Scrooge. I think of Karen, what her name is, the one that's I forgot. I'm bad with names now. The one basically was in she's the main lead. She's his girlfriend in this.
Karen Allen. Yeah.
See, I'm sorry, not so nice to usually saying her name anymore. She was a big name back when she was in like Indiana
Raiders.
Jones stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
But Raiders of the Lost Ark. We didn't call it Indiana Jones. It was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark. You know, but I always forget about her, her being an actress because she's fallen away from the limelight. She came back for that depressing movie Indiana Jones 5 or 6, whatever it is. But I always said I always loved seeing her in this. I was like, and it's just I kept thinking like, because I always get this confused with when I watch Groundhog's Day, which is another movie similar to this, but it's not Christmas. It's Groundhog's Day. Right. That guy, he's basically a jerk, repeats the same day over and over again, and finally realizes at the end, well, he has that I'm a dick, and he's happy to be alive, and he gets the girl. And it's just kind of a similar, but a little differences in the movie.
Yeah,
but,
this one is, I think it's the way he gets to that place, because here it's really about the manipulation of others. Some would argue in the religious sense or whatever, but in the other one, it's more metaphysical, I think.
Bob, like, huh? We got no. So
Goulet.
Yeah. So no, Bob was the name of I think his name of the guy or Phil, whatever his name is, Whenever the guy he kept punching in Groundhog Day, he made him outside the store. And he's like, "Hey, let's go from high school." And he'd punch him, and he'd go. finally. I want to review that next, though, but I think we might have it though. But it's always a fun movie. But anyway, Bill Murray is just Bill Murray in this. It works. I mean, anyone else I wouldn't be as fun. Bill Murray is just over the top. He even gets to sing at the end. He's just like, "Feed me, Seymour," at the end. It's like the whole thing. It's basically like watching Venkman, his character, and Bill Murray plays the same character pretty much every movie he's in, which I like because the guy has natural charisma. I wonder how much in this movie he actually ad-libbed, if he did or not. But going all the way through this, though, we talk about the props. There wasn't really much CG in this. I don't think there was any CGI. Really,
very little and very expensive way back then.
Set pieces. The set pieces going to at the end credits. I kept thinking that's the same credit font they use in Ghostbusters. It's because this is a Paramount, but film. But anyway. Like I said, this is a guilty pleasure for me. I watch this movie every year, at least once, and this puts you towards the end. You get that Christmas kind of spirit, you can have Christmas every day, and then the most touching thing is the girl who works for him, who actually she's the gender flipped, race swap Bob Hatchet, actually really not Bobcat. It's the woman whose son who's mute.
Yeah,
he hasn't spoken since his dad died, or his last. And at the end, he's basically the Tiny Tim. He's like, he forgot something, and God bless. And his mother's like, what? Because he hasn't spoken. So like I said, it's just a very heartwarming movie with a lot of comedy. It's just funny. I think I gotta watch more Richard Donner films.
Oh yeah.
Because all I can think of offhand is Christopher Reeve Superman. The Donner cut and stuff. I can't think of any other Donner films. I'm sure there's a whole bunch more. I have to look them up, but.
Okay, so he did the Superman movies, which are the best.
Yeah.
The Toy, that he did Goonies. I mean, as a director, Lethal Weapon is what he's known for. Radio Flyer, Conspiracy Theory. I think we've covered that here on the Xtreme Movie Show.
Conspiracy Theory, and now Lethal Weapon, I've watched too.
Yeah, The Toy, that was popular.
There's Your Fire.
80s. Yep. And he did The Omen. Actually, he was the director on that in '76, and that's a fantastic film, actually.
For me, personally, this is in my top 10 for Christmas movies. Home Alone is not. I hate that film.
Here an interesting thing, we didn't really get into it too much backstage, because I do like this movie, and a lot of it, of course, is based off the performance of Bill Murray here. But
yeah,
I had watched two other movies recently because I hadn't seen them in a super long time, and just in case we were going to review them. And one of them was is it a Christmas Story, because it's got our boy Kolchak in here as the dim-witted father, which of course everybody's presented that way these days. And I'm watching it going, I understand the scenes that they have, and I understand it's a period piece. The kid's not bad, but there's something annoying about it I don't like. I feel it's forced.
That's why when I watched it at least twice in my lifetime, and I just can't watch anymore. Like my friends got the leg lamp,
Yeah, and it was,
so
I'm
that's what
telling
it
you, it was
is.
not huge at the time as far as people going, "You gotta go see this movie." It just was a movie and it was out. And
Yeah.
it's like I say that Stranger Things song that was popular in this last season or
Oh,
whatever
Running
like
Up the
that.
Hill. Yeah.
It was bigger now than it was back then, and I'll fight that
Yeah.
to the death. I don't care if you look at Billboard charts or what, that was not on the radio a lot, and people
It's a
did
one
not
hit
talk about
wonder.
that artist.
That's what it sounds like.
And if she can make her millions now, more power to her. But, the other movie too that's really popular is, what is it, Miracle on 34th Street, where they put
Yeah.
Macy's in there a lot, and the guy who thinks he's Santa Claus and all that, and it's got Natalie Wood in it too, a young Natalie Wood, which is like, "That's Natalie Wood!" And she's incredible. But I'm watching these Christmas movies, and there's just an element of them forcing it upon you. And I always thought that's something you mentioned earlier. Groundhog Day
Yeah.
is a better example of, hey, this is just my life. This is what happened to me, and this is how I got better, as opposed to saying, if you don't do this, this bad thing's going to happen.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's that pure adult to child kind of thing that if you're not a good child, well then Santa's not going to bring you gifts. And it's like, well, I mean, if you rely on that to keep your kid line, something's wrong and you're teaching a kid a bad lesson. Because the way he fired a Bobcat Goldthwait early on, that's how you
Yeah.
do it. Call security, code 9, walk his ass out. That's exactly how you do it.
Because you don't know what you cause you fight, and that's today's
That's when bad things happen. And so
when
that's, I
yeah.
know it's a comedy movie, but there's a lot of meanness in here where I think it would have been very hard for Bill Murray to come across as, hey, we just love Ghostbusters, and we know this guy's been a goof for a good 10 plus years here, Saturday Night
Yeah.
Live, all these other
Meatballs.
films.
Yeah. Nonsense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he nails it. And I think he had to do that. I think it's lost when you just think he's a goof, because he nails the bastard part right. He does not command the way that other people in that role would be very
Oh,
serious and mean.
he's just a complete asshole in this movie. So it's like, wow. And like Groundhog Day was nicer. His character was nicer. He's this complete dick. And then as you see as it goes through, you see him like the Grinch. His heart grew 3 sizes that day. And just realizing it, at the end, you see him. He's actually like shed a tear. He's crying because he's just so happy that
I know.
yeah. It's like, how often do you see Bill Murray in a movie where he's got tears coming out of his eyes?
Well, again, what I don't like about the endings of these movies is because we get the happily ever after, and okay, being scared and manipulated into an outcome like
Yeah.
that, usually those people are like, no, I don't deserve it, and it doesn't happen because they know that. And that's why every restaurant on like any Gordon Ramsay show or Fix It Up show, they fail, because you can go in there and do stuff, and it's great
Yep.
content for television, and you see how professional identifies things and implements new structures, procedures, but you got to live that every single day. And so this is the kind of person who's gotten to where he's at to be successful with a certain behavioral style.
He's under pressure too. He's going to be replaced by John Glover.
Yeah, and these things happen.
Lex Luthor's dad.
if you're going to be the alpha in your workplace, there's going to be people that are going to take you out, and every now and then you get a test, and you have to politically.
That's just the way corporations are, though.
That's exactly it.
And it's not a knock against capitalism. Capitalism, anybody can. That's the thing. The American dream was anybody can basically build their own business.
Yeah.
Now, is there going to be people who's going to take advantage of that? Crooks, sure. But that's why we have our laws, checks and balances and stuff. But yeah,
you bring up a good point, because we're diving deep into technicalities of Christmas, and this is important because this is the real Christmas message here on the Xtreme Movie Show.
Yes.
If I could be serious for a minute and talk about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's not about.
Hold on, let me put the flag up and flapping in the wind. I sound good, man.
No, it's so Thanksgiving. Everybody almost died those first year or two, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the people that came over weren't necessarily capitalists. They were just people that thought, well, screw it, I want to get away and do what I want to do, right? They were selfish and entitled in a sense, but they couldn't handle the structure they were in. So they come over here and they're like, okay, hey, let's have this big plot of land. Let's make stuff together. We'll have and look, I love gardening. I love cooking. I love food. I'm into all that stuff. I believe in tending that. Gardening is fucking hard work, and it's easy to go out and just buy stuff at the grocery store. But those first year or two, all the pilgrims were like, well, I don't feel like it today. My tummy hurts. Or, hey, I only ate 4 calories today off some grass, so I'm too tired to work. And so they almost all died out with disease and everything. And when then they changed their charting to say, hey, RVD from the Great Midwest, you got 1 acre and your family, it's all yours. You do what the fuck you want. You're not getting anybody else's food. And then they give it to me, Mr. Xtreme CEO, and to Professor Pixel. Then all
Yep.
of a sudden we realized, shit, we've got to produce, literally. But then they got to the point where they produced so much. It's, hey, I'll trade you 10 of my tomatoes for one of your big pumpkins. And then that became kind of the way you would celebrate Thanksgiving, because you had an additional bounty for it, because your personal self-interest was there. People that have that with Christmas, when you have these outside manipulations, it never ever works. And it's just blatant, whether you put a religious aspect to it or a moral one, and you
Mhm.
strip away the whole Christ element to it. And that's why when you brought up Groundhog Day, just off the top of my head, I remember that's a little bit better, because that's more of the, hey, shit, I'm getting older, my life is flashing before me, and when I go to die, is this really the way I want to do it? Hey, let's look back and look at the different ways things could have turned out.
Well,
And that's always
and
kind of neat to see, even in these Christmas movies, right? Because you get to see
and
people in different things, right?
that's what Charles Dickens, his whole
Yep.
Christmas Carol is all about. It's about your past mistakes come back to haunt you. Your choices affect what's going to happen in your life. Make good choices. Be a kind person. It was religious, obviously. Uh,
Yeah.
so there's no way to deny it. I know I don't know if he was Catholic or Christian or whatever he was, but he when he wrote this story, he wrote it because he was a very moral person, and it was his way is saying, it's like, be thankful for what you have, don't be a dick, but he also says, as a Christian, you can repent, you can change your ways, it's not too late, and that's kind of what Scrooge is kind of like about him repenting his ways, his evil deeds, ways, and trying to be a better person. And as I said, there's Bill Murray at the end, you see him crying in it because he finally realizes, oh, wow, it's like, I don't. He says it's the first I've been happy in a very, very long time, because he's been so full of anxiety and all this pent up, just miserable. And finally, finally lets go of it and just realizes there's
He
more
just
to it.
needed to go to a strip club and take a few ladies home and have a little cocaine breakfast. That's all. I mean, it's the 80s. Let's be
He's not
real.
Hunter Biden, okay?
So what's interesting too
But
about the rise of the industrial class and how that can work for you is that all of a sudden you get to where you've got extras that you can produce and you can share it, or you can accumulate
yes,
capital like all these people did in industries. And that was pretty much the greatest single accumulation of wealth in the entire world. And from that, you had a lot of small colleges, private colleges, especially here in the South, made railroads and everything else there too. People could sit there and say, well, they're greedy sons of bitches and bastards. But the bottom line is that transformed America into pretty much the higher standard of living for everybody involved, because the floor gets higher. Even if you're a kid and you were digging coal out 10 hours a day or whatever it is, you're still making more money than you were if you're sitting around hoping that the pumpkin doesn't fucking freeze and you can eat a can of soup or something. And also from that excess, you got a lot of charity. And we always talk about how today there doesn't exist a lot of the lodges and a lot of the social infrastructure that existed back then, whether it was groups or the boys club, the men's club, the early variations of it.
yeah,
And so it was nice to sit there and see that some of these go back a long way, and they all started off. Why? Because somebody had extra capital, and for whatever reason, out of their own selfish interests, wanted to appear like they're looking good. And so you've got some variants of that in the modern day world with some things we don't need to really get into, like
yeah.
ESG, for example, and
Mhm.
it's kind of muted it. But back then, honestly, tipping, I know people today beg for tips, even if you order food online and you go pick it up at the store and come back, they still
I
expect it.
honestly, I'm to the
People
point
didn't
where
tip that much back in the day because it was
I
considered racist.
as far as tips for waitresses or places and all, if they want, hey, do you want to donate to this charity? Like I used to back in the day, until I realized that most of those you donate money, it never reaches the person. And I
No.
and the thing is really you're choosing now is it used to be for like for starving people, starving families, poor families. Now it's, do you want to help kids go to college? Help go to I'm like, dude, it's called go get a job. That's what all of us did. We went and got a job and we paid for college. We didn't
Or
take
like he
debts
says in
out.
American Psycho to the bum before he kills him, get a goddamn job, Al. Look, it's easy to see, but the point is
Yeah.
charity only exists when you have the ability to give something that's in excess. And so in here, it's incredible because what is it? Lee Majors, the Fall Guy, the Bionic friggin' Man. He's an icon, right? He was in the Evil Dead show that we reviewed. He's in that action part there too. I'm like, this is incredible. This is 80s television stuff. And then, of course, Goldthwait's like, you can't do that. You got to do this. And he's got that annoying voice, which is his shtick back in the day. But TV, what a powerful medium that you can do a lot of stuff with. And so that was his way of kind of giving back there at the end. And it's difficult to watch this in a sense that, when he goes live and kind of has his come to Jesus meeting or whatever you want to call it. At the end, it's all on television. That's not easy to do.
Yeah. You also know that he would have been cut, but you know what? It all worked out. Bobcat had his back. He had a shotgun. He had everybody held hostage. Keep grilling. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, yeah, except this is also an 80s movie too. So it's people are a little bit more kinder back then. It's great seeing. Like I said, I love seeing locations of New York's always been a shithole. It got a little better under Giuliani. You can't deny that. But then now it's back to being like it was in the 70s. Crime and all that shit. But I mean, like, I like seeing just natural dislocations. Because I really have no desire to go take a tour of the United States and go around different cities. But I still like seeing them because now we have the technology called the internet, so people can upload stuff. So
it's different when you're there. Like to see everybody dressed up in suits in A Miracle on 34th Street, going to Macy's, and everything that's so clean, it's so neat. You don't care.
Back then, sure, in the 40s.
Oh my God, yeah. But when people gave a crap about their appearance.
Yes. 3-piece suit. When's the last time you seen a guy throw his trench coat down for a woman or a puddle?
I've never seen that. So
I've never
happened.
But it doesn't mean it never happened, though. It's just that today's society is not like it was. We're now a more realistic society. We're more like me. Screw everyone else. Greed. It's sad.
Well, it infiltrates every bit of society, and so like I'm at the gym, and I got some influencer wannabe chick, with the yoga pants and the stupid hip thrust exercise stuff, and I'm doing my bit on the power rack or like that. She's like, "Hey, you're in my shot," and I'm like, "So." And I'm like, "You want to get more subs? Just keep me in it." So I'm arguing with her because I'm screw you. I'm there first. I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't give a shit what you're doing.
Well,
and so you know what I said to her at the end and shut her up? I said, "Merry Christmas." I mean, that's just how it is. Some people just can't handle it.
Well, I tell her, it's like, well, if you don't like this, it's called work at home. This isn't your personal studio.
Yeah. So Scrooged, look, these older stories, one reason why they're retold isn't necessarily because they're great. It's because they're in the public domain, like Edgar Allan Poe. So you see a lot of these things and a lot more holiday things, right? So this movie, I think, is a great reimaging of Scrooged.
Well, sure.
I think they did a great job.
Christmas Carol is like
it's hard to do. It's hard to do it with somebody, and I think Bill Murray nailed it. I think he did an awesome job.
And it's a modern take on a really tale that's been told several times. I think this stands out, and the only one that stands out from all the other Christmas Carols ones is the Muppet Christmas Carol. A lot of them were just cookie cutters. They're the same.
I think Charlie Brown Christmas is up there for me. I think we may have reviewed that a few years ago.
But that's not really a Christmas Carol though. It's a different story. But but it's still a Christmas story though. But I like this movie because of the fact that it's Bill Murray. I'm a Bill Murray fan. That's a plus. But I said you get Robert Mitchum in here too. Really cool too. William Forsythe. Yeah. You're getting a lot of actors that are no longer with us anymore. It's sad to say, but yeah.
Do you think people, when people think about Bill Murray, the last movie I think people talk about really with him is that one where he meets the young chick in Japan and he's doing
Lost Translation? I never watched it. It was horrible.
It's solid to me. And I know some people talk about Life Aquatic, which I think was a shit film.
That was a shit film. I watched that and that was horrible.
Then people think of Meatballs and Ghostbusters. Nobody seems to think of Scrooge, but I do think this is one of his better
Scrooge, movies. Meatballs. What about Bob? That's the other one.
Yeah, but
yeah,
are you going to watch What About Bob over Scrooge?
Or or Caddyshack. No,
Caddyshack.
I own all these movies on I get What About Bob on VHS, bro.
He was good in Election. I believe that was the one there too.
The one I didn't watch was Rushmore. That looked
Rushmore. That's what I'm thinking of, not Election. Rushmore. He's good in that. It's different.
It just seemed
It's
more.
different.
It didn't seem like a Bill Murray movie. It seemed more like Bill Murray's just in it, but he's playing somebody else. It's not stylized to him like he was in the 80s.
I see your point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's saying Ghostbusters someone. That's probably what he's going to go down with. Although I would say probably a strong number 2, honestly, and that's just because people love Ghostbusters so much. Is Meatballs. Meatballs was the movie everybody just loved, and that's one of the last films that I think captures that, Bad News Bears 70s kind of style of summer camp and all that sort of stuff. And Vacation, of course, with Chevy Chase in 83. But we don't have too many more after those, so it's kind of amazing something like Meatball still holds up.
Like for me, for Christmas movies, when you think Christmas movies, I think Scrooged, I think Christmas Vacation. Or maybe
people do love Christmas Vacation. They really do. They love his role.
Even though it doesn't, looking at it, the film, you wouldn't even think it is Christmas Vacation because the covers, because unless it has a Christmas tree on it, you don't think it's a Christmas movie unless you've seen it. But no, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, it's a fun movie. Sugar's full. The turkey, it deflates. It's just a fun movie. I love watching those.
Did you have a favorite scene from this movie?
From this movie, like I said, him and Carol Kane, every single time she just keeps hitting him, and just he hits his head in the pipe or whatever. I mean, with Lou, he's like, "Oh, you Lou looks like good." He drinks, and it's this. He's got the liquid's just coming out of him, like he got the bullet holes, and you see the worm. He's like, ugh. Like I said, I love the natural makeup, special effects makeup in here. It's great. And even at the end, where he's like, hey, and she's like, what was he looking to? All the ghosts are up there in the end. Yeah. So
I like our Mitchum kicking the cat. I kind of like spit out what I was eating. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Because, who really likes animal violence? But, if it's cat violence, I'm a little tolerable of it.
Right.
Being the dog guy. No, but Mitchum's always a treat. And we did, Holiday Affair last year?
I still like those. I still like those movies, like I said. But I said, like, when I think of Christmas movies, though, my first go-to is is these movies, kind of these comedies like this. But then, I also do Die Hard. Ghostbusters 2 is if I'm really in the mood for it, because I don't really like that as much.
Right.
But it's more like it takes place on New Year's, the end. And it's like between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, the time nobody remembers. Well, as we wrap it up here, I'll go first. Yeah, check this movie out if you haven't. It is fun. Bill Murray's performance is great. He's got that kind of energy and enthusiasm that, to me, really held out for a long time. I think right after him, the guy that kind of picks up that energy level in a slightly different way, but certainly manic enough, would be a Jim Carrey sort of type. Not fully over the top, but more of a smart ass. Bill Murray was. I always like that kind of humor with Chevy Chase is very sharp, to me, very intelligent. Some quick lines in here. I did want to say this in front of you because I only sent you a brief message the other day. I have seen the best movie of 2023, and it's Godzilla -1, and I definitely want to be reviewing whether it's myself, Solar, or not. I've got so many things to say.
2.5 hours of just subtitles. I heard. No.
Well,
unfortunately, where it closed down the good, safer place where I watch movies. Where now, if I want to go watch a movie, I have to worry about my car getting broken into.
Yeah, subbed, not dubbed, I think is the expression, because I could care less either way. But this movie,
I'm more dubbed because I like watching the actual Godzilla instead of reading caption.
Well, I don't know how much of an issue that is for people today with things, because obviously not a lot of films are that way. I'll simply say this is about Godzilla, is that it's what I've told you before I wish some movies would do. It's a serious take on them. There's not a lot of there's a few scenes you might think are comedy.
It's like Shin Godzilla, isn't it? Basically like a continuation or something like that.
It's not a continuation at all, like Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla was like pointing out how stupid the government was and other stuff. This one is almost like a soft reboot in a way. They go back to World War II and kind of Godzilla almost in the beginning.
Godzilla's a girl because he's got the pink, right?
No, what the fuck are you talking about?
There's-
That's Godzilla versus Kong, and
uh,
supposedly that's not girlish. That's him healing and getting new powers. But that's an
okay.
April movie we'll discuss. But this
There's
movie,
there's so much Godzilla stuff out right now. Okay, I can't tell which is which.
the TV show's only good because of the Russells, because the group around them suck and it's very woke. And I hate to say it because I love Kurt Russell. I'm still watching it and it looks good. Not a lot of Muda though. You get a lot of Godzilla in this film because some people love a lot of Godzilla. I just like I can do less is more, and at the right time. I will simply say with the opening scene, the opening gambit, if you will, of Godzilla -1,
Yep.
you go, holy shit, if they keep this up the whole movie, the way they're doing this, how serious they are, and it's terrifying. This Godzilla you are scared of, and I'm not joking when I say that. You know, I don't goof with that and say stuff like that lightly.
Yeah.
There's a human element to it, which is good enough where I will tell you this, the theater that I was when I saw it was a Saturday afternoon showing. I want to say the 3 o'clock showing.
Probably packed.
I saw it on one of the screens where it was 3/4 packed, not quite, the evening show. And I'm telling you, at the end, people were noticeably crying, and then at the end, they applauded. Not when the credits are rolling, but at the end. And I'm like, really? But I'm watching it going, fuck, this is a good movie because they set up the human element and use Godzilla as the proxy for the anti-government, anti-World War I stuff. Like I say, I have so much I could say about it. It's by far the best movie of the year. It's well written. It looks fantastic. Godzilla's terrifying. This isn't some Godzuki little bullshit special where, you got some, Mothra, and there's some nice music playing, but it's all CGI bullshit like a Rampage fucking video game. It's none of this crap that it's been Americanized and dumbed down. Even though I'll watch it because it's Godzilla, I'm almost embarrassed because I go, this is how you make a Godzilla film. And you and I have said this before. I know that on the Geeky Puppet Show, you guys cover a lot of the other stuff we don't cover on Xtreme, and we try to do some crossovers. Man, Godzilla would be a nice one to do crossovers on because it's interesting to sit there and say, well, what do the comics or the pulps say about it versus the movie and the American version versus the original? You've mentioned a lot of anime stuff, which we haven't really covered.
The plan to see when Pixel gets back from his vacation. He's going to Tennessee for a week.
Roger that.
So we'll be back to 17th. So.
Go see it, Ed. Go see it. I'm telling you, man. Everybody go see Godzilla -1. I really want to review it here quick, even if it's just me by myself. All right. Anything else for you that you want to?
Not much. Gonna be going live in 15 minutes on the Geeky Puppet Show, talking about the new comic books come out this week. So if you like that, also if you haven't done so, please click like, subscribe, help us get to at least 1,000 subs on here. Keep sharing out these live streams, and also showing up, man. It's great to see everybody here.
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. Our time's going up. Our all that stuff that's important now. It's like pretty cool.
And somebody said before, if you keep talking about, we have to review it. What movie was that? I just saw that up here. Wall Street. And it's like you quote Wall Street enough, you'll have to review it.
Wall Street.
It'd be a first watch for me. I've never seen it.
Well, maybe next Tuesday we'll have to see how that goes. Yeah.
But which one though? The original?
1987, Michael Douglas, Wall Street.
Okay, not the sequel.
The sequel's not bad, but it's not in the same vein. Wall Street 1987 existed because it was an 80s film that captures a big chunk of it. You'll recognize it a lot because you're on, season 2 of Miami Vice?
Yeah.
Another fantastic show.
Bloody fantastic, dude.
Yeah. And don't later in the week, don't you guys over in the Geeky Puppet Show, after you do your preview, you do your unboxing or you do your review?
What's what? Well, Tuesday to Thursdays I would talk about comic books, 8 p.m. Central. But I've been watching.
Thursday's the follow up for what you previewed on Tuesday, right?
Beautiful that is, man. Tuesdays is we're both. Tuesdays where we show we talk about the comic books coming out, and then Thursdays when we actually show them off and do reviews.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's a continuation. Yeah,
it's basically a follow-up stream. This is what we're excited to get, and then we finally get it, and then we talk about it, little reviews. But yeah. If you guys had fun with this, click like, subscribe, leave us a comment down below. What other Christmas movies do you think we should review that you haven't seen on here yet? We'll try to build a playlist for Christmas movies so you guys kind of have an idea.
A24, Mar Vista, the shitty entertainment out there, give it to me. We'll do it. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, showing up, listening. It's always great that you spend some of your time with us and all that. That's the most fun part about it. Just talking about a movie that we've seen and what we like and don't like and what works. definitely a lot more to go. There's no shortage of content for us. So for RDV, everybody involved here at the Extreme Movie Show, thanks for watching, listening. As always, stay extreme. This has not been a Dan Curtis production or Quinn Martin.